Hello everybody, welcome back to the Indian Captains. My name is Shoaib and today we're going to be talking about a certain crisis that the entire aviation industry is facing around the world. And if you would have already read the newspapers, the news channels, what I'm talking about is nothing but the pilot crisis, the job cuts, the pilots being laid off, and so on and so forth. So today we're going to be discussing and I'll be giving you certain information as to what has been the current market scenario and how things have been with respect to the jobs offered in the aviation industry. So I'm going to be completely focusing on the Indian market today, and the next video we will be focusing on the global market and as to how things have been with the other airlines. So if you know, the Indian aviation industry is more or less the stakeholders have been the first 5 to 6 airlines, which is Air India, Indigo, AirAsia, Go Air, Vistara, and even SpiceJet. So these have been the major stakeholders in the Indian aviation industry. And topping off with respect to the stakes, it's mainly Indigo who's leading the chart with around 49%, and the remaining by the respective airlines. So when an airline is actually functioning, it has so much of extra expenses or operational expenses, if we can call it, with respect to keeping the fleet in check, maintenance, salaries. You have the ground staff personnel, you have so many people involved, right? So and even the crude prices play a very important role as to how an airline does well in its pursuit. So with the onset of the coronavirus, which happened close to in March, so around till February, the industry was doing really well with a lot of requirements coming up in the future months. And then we had the pandemic that hit us. So close to around March 25th, the load factor started dropping. So what do I mean by load factor is the amount of people that have been carried, and even with respect to the cargo. So total proper the payload that we call it is the cargo and the passengers. So this started slowly dipping as we entered the last few days of March. March 25th marked the lockdown period, which started all over India, and that significantly affected the aviation industry. And given there are many airlines who don't actually own an aircraft, they have very few aircraft that they own, and there are many on lease, so it kind of brought in a lot of operational costs. And as soon as that lockdown kicked in, initially few airlines started cutting on the expenses. The first couple of expenses that few airlines cut was Indigo, which got rid of all the expat pilots. Expat pilots are all the foreign captains which work with the airline, and that was close to around 300 to 350 pilots, expat pilots that Indigo had. They were all sent back, or their contracts were cancelled. Further moving from that, Indigo also released all those pilots who were on serving the notice period, so they were all released immediately, and the other pilots were given pay cuts. Initially the salaries were paid for the first 2 months, March, April, and then later the airline came up with a statement where they couldn't continue with the same. So if I give you a quick insight, Indigo is among the few airlines the most stable, or in terms of the cash reserves, they're quite stable that way. So that airline took a big hit. And now from that time to now, there were pilots who were under training sent on LWP, as in leave without pay, which is basically you're not getting paid for a duration of time. And as per resources and sources, they say that it's close to the scenario till end of this year, which is somewhere around December, Jan, is what they have been told. And whereas the other first officers and captains who have been on working duty, they hardly are getting 1 or 2 hours after the lockdown opened. Whereas the other airlines took a big hit with respect to Go Air. They immediately let go of all the expat pilots, and all of them were put on LWP. And there was very little engineering staff which was just there to keep the aircrafts under good condition, which almost all the airlines opted for. And then AirAsia, SpiceJet also followed suit. But the only good thing happened in the lockdown was the transportation of cargo, which which significantly rose up. And since SpiceJet had their cargo facilities, they were doing quite well. And then later, with the permission of DGCA, most of the other airlines also came in, wherein they started transporting cargo material in the passenger aircrafts. Indigo also contributed a lot. SpiceJet was involved in the maximum amount of load transfer around this length and breadth of the country and to few other nations in the globe. Didn't really matter with respect to how well the airlines were doing. So at the end of the day, they had to cut cost. So their work internally releasing a lot of staff. I'm not going to name the airlines, but yeah, there was a lot of that happening. And moving forward, there were a lot of pilots who were in a danger as to losing their job. So it became very critical, and then started the repatriation flights of all the Indians from other countries back to India, and that was obviously taken with a lead from the Air India, and later a few other airlines were also pulled in to help, and that has been the case even now. Post the lockdown, once the aviation industry came back into picture, there still hasn't been that rise, even though all the airlines were told to work at 45% of the operational capacity, and they were by taking all the respective precautionary measures, there still is a lot of losses that each airline is facing, and the survival has become very critical, and so has the employees which are directly related. So it's been a very challenging period, and most of the airlines are trying to do their best. The recent few days back was Indigo, who cut 10% of their workforce, which was somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 employees. And from what the CEO, Mr. Datta, said, that it was mainly to stay afloat, because over the period it doesn't look like it's going to recover quite fast. It's going to take some 2 to 3 months time, so where we actually bring up the operation level. So they don't want to be in a place where they can't survive, so they have cut down on the operational costs. This also means that it was most of the ground staffs getting curtailed and being laid off with respect to their jobs, and the pilots who were currently being safe. That's the only reason, being that there are a lot of aircraft that are coming in for Indigo, and the future expansion remains the same. So it's been a very tough times for everybody, and all the airlines are kind of fighting. Everyone is having very limited flights. Most of the pilots are just getting 1 to 2 flights a month just to stay current. So that's been a big challenge, and you know how difficult every industry is facing. The dip has always been there, but the comeback has been even better. So that's what we as aviators should hope. And until we actually see a good rise, those who have been commercial pilots and looking for jobs, I would suggest make sure just keep yourself busy, keep studying, prepare for your interviews, get your ATPL papers done if you haven't, and keep yourself updated. That's the least that we can do, because it's a global crisis, and we just hope and pray that things become a little bit better. And if there are opportunities to become instructors, teach, just keep yourself afloat. Make sure there is some earnings happening, even if it's from another industry, it's okay, but stay connected somewhere to the industry, because we have seen in the past where even the last recession that hit us in 2010, we all fought back, and the aviation industry grew tenfolds. And with now the current government rules where they are allowing foreign investments happening, and there is a scope of hope, and there's a ray of light definitely in this dark tunnel. So if you've been laid off, or if you've been fighting crisis, I just hope that it gets better. And for those who are looking to start their careers, finish off the basic requirements which I told you, exams and medicals, so you don't invest much, and then as soon as you see the market picking up, you can always go for your flight training. And if you're looking for your flight training, it's still going to take you time to get settled in the industry, and by the time, definitely our industry will be doing better in the days to come. Stay positive. That's what we have to do as aviators. Spread positivity amongst everybody, and make sure that everyone slowly recovers. Do not let your mental health get affected. Stay in touch with your near ones. Keep seeing a lot of videos, update yourself with knowledge. I'm sure all of us will be able to take off. and definitely the storm is definitely not going to be there for a long time, and when it goes away, I'm sure we're all going to fly with flying colors. So until then, aviators, this is Shoaib signing off, and I hope if you have connected with me in some way or the other, leave a like, comment, and do subscribe to our channel. It definitely helps us. Until then, take care, stay safe, goodbye.